Welcome to episode 11 of A Child Rights Series 2025. Hear the voices of our children. We have rights too. Brought to you in collaboration with the Early Childhood Commission. This month, we focus on My Right to Positive Parenting, a reminder that children thrive when the adults in their lives guide them with respect, support, and an understanding of their growing abilities. So positive parenting is not only encouraged, it is a recognized right anchored in the Early Childhood Commission standards for early childhood institutions and in key articles of the Conventions on the Rights of the Child. So stay with us for what promises to be a rich, engaging conversation with Dr. Warren Thompson, Director of Intake, Investigations and Court Services at the Child Protection and Family Services Agency. No stranger to this space. Welcome back, Sir Thompson. We also have joining us for the first time in this space, Karif Clark, Director Principal Interim at the National Council for Educational Leadership. Some of us might know the entity as NCEL. Karine Francis, our Manager of Community Relations there at the Early Childhood Commission. And Sergeant Andrew Williams, Assistant National Safe Schools Coordinator at the Community Safety and Security Branch Headquarters, Jamaica Constabulary Force. Welcome all. All right. Let me see what's going on. Sergeant Williams, let's join us on screen. Awesome. Yes. So let's get the conversation rolling because we have quite a bit to cover, a lot happening. So let's start by hearing your perspective. What constitutes positive parenting and how can parents express this right in practical ways? Let's start with Lady Francis, then we're going to Sergeant Williams, Dr. Thompson, and then Sir Clark.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me with some. All right, so positive parenting. For me, this is an area that focuses on raising children through nurturing relationships. So what it means is that we parent differently in this modern age. It looks at different skills that help parents to develop that better parent-child relationship where children are better behaved and parents are less stressed. So when you have that relationship with your child, it means that it is easier. The parenting process becomes easier and it helps the child to grow in healthy, nurturing relationships. They're more responsible. They tend to be a little bit more industrious. And then you realize that the child is on another level because then they are heard, they are seen, they are respected. So what it does is that it shapes the role for our society. And then we are creating these little humans into the adults that we want them to be.
Thank you, Sergeant Williams.
Yes. For me, positive parenting really is, providing guidance with the respect for their emotional well-being. Being in the schools, I have seen so many times products, I must admit, of I wouldn't say bad parenting, but parenting that doesn't provide the guidance with the respect for their emotional well-being. I think the time has now passed that a child should, be seen and not heard. They want an outlet, and so I implore parents too, when you're providing this guidance, please remember that the children, they do have right. They have an emotional well-being that must be catered to, and just be listeners. Because I always say at every single school I go, I tell you, if they're not going to listen to you, they're going to listen to someone else. So just provide that guidance with their emotional well-being at hand, in heart, and I think we will be on our way to having, raising better children.
All right, Doc.
All right. Well, pretty much what everybody has said.
Yeah.
But I like to think of positive parenting as a relational and rights-based approach to parenting. So it's an approach to parenting that sees the child as a rights holder. So the child, has a voice that must be heard. the child is treated with dignity and not as property. The relationship between parent and child is characterized by, yes, warmth and affection, but there are also clear boundaries set for the child. So the parent still has his or her right to parent in terms of disciplining the child, but of course it's discipline in the sense of teaching and not a punitive type of discipline. So it's discipline in terms of teaching the child what are the appropriate behaviors and expectations of him and her. And it's a relationship, a way to parent that is based on trust. And in terms of one of the ways that we say parents can engage in positive parenting is by connecting before they correct. So we say connect before you correct, connect with the child before you correct the behavior. And there are different approaches and strategies. One that I was exposed to last year is called trust-based relational intervention. And that is really for children who have behavioral issues. But all of it is centered on positive parenting, which is based on the relationship between parent and child, building that and ensuring that there is a mutual recognition of rights of parents and children.
Connect before you correct. I love that.
Yeah.
Right, Sir Clark.
Well, thank you so much for having me on this program. For me, there are two things that I'd add to the conversation in terms of positive parenting. The first that I'll add is that of positive role models for our children, being so critical in terms of the values, the attitudes, and the dispositions that we want our children to emulate, that we want our children to replicate in their own lives when they interact with different individuals from different backgrounds. So I think as parents, we ought to, and adults, I think we ought to have a clear sense of what those critical values and attitudes are, and the ones that we're going to be intentional about in terms of emulating or modeling for our children to follow. The other item that I want to add to the conversation is that of communicating well or effectively. Ironically, many of us talk about effective communication when we talk about adults, and sometimes we don't even give our children the opportunity to engage in effective communication. And from my background as an initial language trainer or educator, there are 4 critical areas of communication. 2 that I'll highlight is that of speaking and listening. And I'm highlighting those because oftentimes we speak to our children, but we don't listen to them. And I think that is critical. So I think those 2 skills in terms of language development, in terms of communication, are so important. And to add to the language communication area is that of having an approach or taking an approach which is called seek to understand. Many a times we do not seek to understand our children, and so that may cause some friction in the relationships that Doc spoke about. And so I'd want us as parents, as adults, interacting with children to take that approach in terms of seeking to understand and helping our children to seek to understand where you are coming from as an adult, engaging them in interactions.
Thank you so much. Nice foundation laid there. And we are now going to take it into the different entity discussion, starting with the Early Childhood Commission. Reen, how does the ECC define parental responsibility within the early childhood sector?
All right. So when we look at parental responsibility, we are going to start with standard 10 of our 12 operating standard, and this states interaction with parents and community members. And essentially what standard 10 looks into is that we seek to enhance effective parent education and support through collaborating with the relevant stakeholders to provide timely support and intervention to our parents. And if we look at standard article 18, it talks about parental responsibility and state assistance. So while parents are ultimately responsible for their child, it is the right of the states to provide assistance in terms of childcare services. So at the Early Child Commission, we have our parent places, and our parent places, it offers education in terms of trying to enhance some of those roles and responsibility, the parental skills, helping parents to identify and also providing them with the skills necessary for parenting. We have a 13-week curriculum which caters to this. And we also have our monthly parent webinar, which provides education and awareness in terms of national and international issues that our parents may be faced with. However, because the ECC has responsibility for the child 0 to 8 years old, we have our first 1,000 day app. And this app, now, to show you we're laying the foundation, parental responsibility starts before birth. So 0 to 8 means from conception. And some may even go as further to say it starts before conception, because we have individuals who do plan before having children. Now, what the app does is that it looks at the developmental milestone of the child. So parents have this at hand, so that they're looking at the responsibility here and they're tracking the child's milestone. And if needs be, they can tell whether or not the child will be needing early intervention. In addition to that, you also find that the app helps to guide the clinic dates. Is the child immunized? What shots should they be getting at this stage in time? And taking it back to the beginning, it's helping to understand that your child needs an identity. Does the child have a name? Are they aware of their name? Do they understand what it means to uniquely have that type of identity through having a name? It also provides a listing of all our early childhood institutions per parish across all regions, and it provides that guidance to parents in order to make better decisions for the child as they continue throughout these stages. Now, we are looking also at giving them real-time support, because we have a bot who responds to questions. We have articles that provide support in basic challenges or issues that you may be finding. So for instance, we look at supporting the child if your child refuses breast milk. What happens now? Your child is 1 year old and you need to find a daycare that is in close proximity to where you live or to where you work. That is available. And then we take them through. We also have a 0 to 3 curriculum. It provides that level of education where you definitely know where you are, what needs to be done, and we seek to enhance the parental skills and engagement each step of the way.
All right. That's quite a mouthful, but very very inclusive approach in terms of the different areas covered. And of course, in light of what's happening down west and around us for those who are still without certain utilities, in what ways is the ECC supporting parents, early childhood practitioners, and school leaders as they recover from the impact of Hurricane Melissa?
Okay. All right. So at ECC, since the passing of Hurricane Melissa, we have a disaster management committee. And from this committee, we would have developed several subcommittees. So we have committees that caters to our staff. It looks at early child practitioners and also early childhood institutions. Our committees also focus on parenting, on children, and on overall infrastructure and our resource centers. Now, we have several activities conducting from last week into this week. We have been engaging with our partners. We have stakeholders that we are collaborating with in terms of providing assistance to parents and to the children. So far, we have for this week, 3 days this week, we have identified 3 parishes in which we will be finding our children at early childhood institutions in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland and Trelawney. We would have been working with several different agencies. We are going to be engaging our children in the spaces where they are. If they're at a shelter, we are creating 2-hour programs in order to facilitate that level of engagement where our children do not feel left out, where they know that this is kind of like your new normal. You may not be able to be with your friends. You're not able in your uniform, but learning is taking place. while we are supporting our children, we're also supporting our parents. So we are offering resilience training and psychoeducational support for our parents. We are putting them in different groups. And what it means is that we are helping parents cope. We are providing them with the skills necessary in order to, we know that it's overwhelming. We know that you're probably frustrated. However, this is what you can do with your child. Here is how you communicate with your child based on what is happening in your space, the little things that you can use around you to also stimulate your child. We have been provided with kits where we will be engaging the children, we'll be giving them these little kits, so it's something personalized that they can use and have, especially for those who may have lost everything. So here is something that is personally for you, and it's something that you can have within your space and that they can take from and just use it to engage the child. We may not be able to do this on a consistent basis in these spaces because we are trying to reach as many children as possible. And we know that once we have identified them and get them in that specified general location, then we would have started the process.
I always love the 360-degree approach that the ECC takes involving the entire community, not just the child, but the community in general. Thank you so much, Karine Francis, ECC. Now we move over to the Jamaica Constabulary Force, Sergeant Andrew Williams. How are communities empowered to participate in and model positive parenting practices from where you sit in? All right, you're muted. Unmute, Sarge.
I'm having
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, just having a bit of challenge here. So I was listening to my colleague just now, and I want to use the opportunity to do, and we don't normally do this, but to give a shout out to my commissioner of police, Dr. Kevin Blake. He's doing such an amazing job of leading the Jamaica Constabulary Force as it relates to the recovery process. And you will see us out there in social media assisting parents as well. But as it relates to the parenting practices, let me get to that. I had to use that opportunity because of the wonderful job that our commissioner is doing. Now, from the seat that I am in going into the communities, we explain and we know also well the effects of inappropriate or bad parenting practices. And so we push the positive parenting practices, and all our police officers are so trained to have the conversations with members of the community. But we have different groups and different units that go out and have these conversations. We have the domestic violence unit that goes out on the corner as well and have conversations with our parents through our neighborhood watch unit. We have operatives too that encourage positive parenting. There is a program that I'm so proud of as well. It's called Parenting on the Corner. Because we understand where the PTA is concerned, that not all times our parents are able to go to the PTA meetings. We have parenting on the corner that we get to where you are. If you're in your community and you're playing a game of dominoes, we'll join you in your game of dominoes, but we'll be having that conversation with you about what is happening within your community. And oftentimes what comes up is, I have a child and we're having this challenge with them. And we provide that sort of guidance, again, where you are. And we also have, of course, the town hall meetings that we do so often with our communities that the divisional commander or the CSS operative has. And in everything that we do, once we're entering your community, we're having that conversation. We're pushing positive parenting, and we're also pushing whatever is happening with you. The JCF doesn't operate in isolation, and we do not have the questions to every answers. But we are a listening ear, and we're your police officers. And so if you're having a challenge that we are not able to fix on the ground, we put you through to the National Parenting Commission. At the end of every conversation with our citizens, we want to leave them understanding that, again, we are your police officers. And I will always say this, we do not have the answers to everything at the moment, but I guarantee you that at the end, we will point you in the right direction. Again, we know the effects of negative parenting, so the positive parenting is what we push every conversation with our citizens.
Fantastic. This word respect, it's a big thing in our culture. How do our school resource officers ensure that interventions respect the rights of parents while still prioritizing student well-being?
That is a brilliant question, and I'm happy I'm able to ventilate that here. So, as it relates to the parents, now we understand that the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child, Article 5, speaks to respecting the rights and responsibility of the parents to provide appropriate guidance and directions to their children. Now, Article 3 of that same convention speaks to everything being done in the best interest of the child. We move over to the JCF aspect that the Child Care and Protection Act speaks to the best interest of the child must be priority. So in every structured program that the JCF has on offer, the parents are included. It is not done in isolation. And so let me use our mentorship program, for example. Now, our mentorship program is a structured program that can be available in all schools, where our school resource officers are so trained to identify early warning signs of things happening with the child. And so we'll have the program. A part or a component of this program, however, is a form that speaks to consent. So every structured program that we have, we ensure that the parent is informed at the beginning, that their consent is given. We explain the program at our PTAs and at Parenting on the Corner. We explain what the program is. We tell you how you benefit, how your child benefits. And at that time, you give consent. So everything that we are doing is within tandem. So we ensure that the parent is on board. So at no time is their right breached or infringed, because they are a part of the programs that we have on offer.
Fantastic. Get them involved so they are part of the process and
They
not
are.
just the beginning or the end, but throughout. Very important. Yes. So, as you aptly mentioned at the beginning, the engagement in the field of your commissioner and so many other members of the JCF, and I just love what I'm seeing. The police being a part of community and the whole restoration, rebuilding exercise, and that is really great. We're talking about positive parenting. Can't have positive parenting in isolation. The community must exude positivity, right? So, yes, how is the JCF supporting families and school communities during this post-Melissa recovery period?
Thank you for that. So we have, I mentioned our commissioner before, who is doing a wonderful job at recovery. And even in having the stations rebuilt, we have police officers who are parents and that are being supported through the JCF as it relates to parents within our communities. We are partnering with several agencies. Recently, we partnered with the Caribbean Community of Retired Persons, who brought care packages to parents and to retired persons. We also have our school resource officers assessing what is happening within the schools, seeing what is happening with our students, and then we're having conversations with the parents. And so because they're our children, we ensure too that we get some care packages to our students who are affected, and we have the conversation with the parents, just to continue to hold on. I can speak to recently going to Petersfield High School. That's a part of our Safe School program. And we have eight students who are a part of the shelter now that attended the school. And so we're in dialogue now with the parents to see how best we can assist. So through the parents at the different institution, the JCF, the School Resource Officer Program, Community Safety and Security Branch, we're doing an assessment. We're seeing how best we can help. We're helping with school supplies. We are helping with motivation, because that also is very important. We're helping with the care packages as well. So we are there with our students. The school resource officers are there. Our students are contacting them to have conversations, to be uplifted. So we are there with every member, be it a student, the parent, somebody who works at the school. Our school resource officers are there with you, as we promised to do.
Fantastic. And I just love what's going on here. The engagement, and as the name states, Sorrento Resource Connector. So there are so many opportunities for us to connect others with resources, and all hands on deck. We can't go wrong because we're going to need a lot of hands and feet out there and minds to do the coordinating behind the background. That's where I function best. So, all right. So, Karine mentioned earlier the responsibility of the state to provide protective services. And with that said, we are going to go right into the discussion, the segment with the CPFSA. Dr. Warren Thompson, tell us, does the CPFSA provide opportunities to help parents understand their rights, responsibilities, and duties in raising their children?
All right. So right off the bat, Winsome, the answer is yes.
Okay.
I don't know if I need to say anything more, but let me explain how we approach this business of protecting children here. Of course, the name of the agency is Child Protection and Family Services Agency. So we provide services to families. Now, and I think perhaps every time I come here, I talk about a particular unit that we have, that's our Child and Family Support Unit.
Yes.
And the work of that unit is to work with families to reduce the vulnerabilities that could lead to a situation where a removal of a child may become necessary. So that unit will work with parents and children, doing activities like basic counseling, and of course, convening parenting workshops aimed at equipping parents with the skills, the knowledge of child development, knowledge of alternative discipline strategies, knowledge of just how to be better parents. And of course, the aim of those workshops is to increase the capacity of parents to reduce the need for state intervention or state support. So the CPFSA is engaged in that kind of activity every day. Now, when we remove a child from a family, the aim, the first priority is always to pursue reintegration. And in pursuing reintegration, it means that we have to get the parents or the wider family system at a place where the child can safely be returned. So again, we have to do the capacity building with parents, the parenting workshops, equipping parents with the basic understanding of strategies, positive parenting strategies, and including ways in which they can set boundaries and discipline the children without resorting to abusive practices. I hope I have sufficiently responded to your question.
Oh, yes. You see, when you have smart people in the room, we know that we're going to get valuable information so we can understand what exactly happens on the other end. And we are still keeping to that big R, respect, because parents can't be positive if we don't give them the tools that they need, right? And a part of that is just valuing them as individuals, and as such indicated, having them as part of the entire process. So how are parents' rights, duties, and responsibilities respected in the CPFSA's programs and interventions?
All right. So let me start by saying that when we tackle parenting, we are working towards cultural change. One, there's a way in which many parents in Jamaica would have learned how to parent by looking at the examples in the generation before us, and many of those examples have been negative. So we have to equip parents with a new way of thinking, a new way of seeing children. So I don't own my child, and my child is a person. We have to equip parents with not just a new way of seeing children and thinking about the parenting activity, but a new way of seeing the parent-child relationship and actively engaging in that. Now, when we engage with parents, with families, we recognize that the convention on the rights of the child not only give rights to children, but parents have certain rights too. So, for example, the right to custody, the right to participate in decision making pertaining to the child, the right to discipline the child, the right to contribute, for example, to the cultural and religious upbringing of the child, and so on. So we have to respect all of those rights as we engage with parents and children. Now, you asked a question about how do we do this. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if I can say how we just do, by always considering that the parent, one, is the person with the first responsibility. That's one thing. And the Convention on the Rights of the Child, as well as the Child Care and Protection Act, does say that the family is the preferred environment for a child. So when we engage with families, the first thing is, one, not to pursue a removal. Recognize that the parent has this right to maintain the custody of the child, in so much as that right does not infringe on the best interest of the child or the child's provision, protection, or participation rights. So that's the first thing. Do not first pursue a removal unless it is absolutely necessary. That's one. And then two, once the child is removed and comes into care, um, where needed, the parent's views, the parent is invited to participate in decision making pertaining to that child. So when we have a case conference, for example, the parent is expected to be present at the case conference to contribute to decisions about permanency planning, decisions pertaining to the child's education, the child's health care, and so on. So we do that. And of course, where there are parents who, for want of a better word, are negligent, we try to work with them to improve. So we have them work with us to articulate a parenting improvement plan with specific objectives, because we recognize that the parent has a right to this child, and we have to ensure that the parent is given all the opportunities that they need and the resources required to improve in their parenting. So those are some of the things that we do that are aimed at respecting the rights of parents. And I can give you examples. As recently as today, we were a group of us were discussing a particular case where the one parent is overseas and one parent is here in Jamaica, and there's one parent who not by a court order, but has custody, and the parents disagree about which country the child should live in. And the matter came to the CPFSA for the CPFSA to pursue the sending the child to the other jurisdiction where the child was born, incidentally. But our position had to be, the CPFSA cannot do this. The parents have to come to some agreement, because one, there's one parent who has primary custody at the moment, and the child, if there's no reason to remove the child from that environment, then the CPFSA can't do that. And the CPFSA has to respect the rights of both parents, yes, but the parents have to come to some agreement. When it comes to the I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Hague Convention on the civil aspects of international child abductions, which is pretty, putting it in plain language, is parental abduction of children from one jurisdiction to another. When it comes to those kinds of scenarios, again, we have to respect the rights of both parents to custody and access to the child, and we have to try to mediate the relationship or take it to court for a judge to make a decision, because we recognize that parents have a responsibility, yes, but also a right to their children in terms of custody, in terms of decision making, in terms of participation. So those are some of the ways, Winsome.
Right. Some practical ways too, because it actually demonstrates that you do consider the parents' views and not just act arbitrarily in removal and deciding without cause. All right, this one might be a little overlapped to the response you just gave, but just to tie it in with Article 18, which highlights parental responsibilities and the state's duty to support families. How is this reflected in your current role?
Right. So let me take it back to statute. So both the Convention on the Rights of the Child, as well as the Child Care and Protection Act, um, which is of course based on the convention, would articulate this principle that where a parent requires additional support to care for the children, then the state has a responsibility to provide that support. In fact, I think the CPA refers to the parent seeking the support from the minister. So the government of Jamaica has a responsibility established by statute to provide support to families or to parents. And of course, the CPFSA does this in multiple ways. So one, even if it's not a case where a removal is required, the parent comes forward and says, I need some assistance. I'm having this challenge. The CPFSA steps in terms of provision of psychotherapeutic or psychosocial intervention, if that is needed, to build the capacity of the parents to care for the children. We refer parents to other services. Of course, if it's a case where the family needs resources, it could be the PATH program, it could be connecting them with other service providers, whether it's through a church or through a non-governmental organization or through other state entities. We provide assistance to those families or parents so that they can care for the children. And I'm laughing because I'm remembering a conversation I had last week with one of our officers in the most affected areas after Hurricane Melissa. And the officer was telling me that the family had come forward some years ago and they needed some support. They came forward to say, we can't take care of the children. And we supported the children staying at home and assisted them by connecting them with the resource where they could get a house. So we supported them towards getting a house. If I recall correctly, it could be a food for the poor house. But all of that went away in the hurricane. And the officer was telling me that the parent came back to say, the house on the bill for me, and the probably have to build back another one. Right? But we don't build houses, but we try to connect our families to other resources that are out there so that the children can stay at home. And pretty much that's what it is doing. So.
Right. It seems like you have a lot of houses that you're going to have to be building, especially down west.
Yeah.
Right? Because that was the next question in terms of how CPFSA assisting families and caregivers were affected by Hurricane Melissa outside of the house. Any other areas?
Yeah, well, so
highlight?
At this stage, our activities in the most affected region have been focused on, let me say three things. One, we have been doing relief work with children in various communities, meaning carrying care packages, feed, food, and so on. So we have been doing that from time to time. We have done it in Trelawney, we have done it in St. Elizabeth. We have not yet done it in Westmoreland. We have, through this activity, we have fed hundreds of children. We have also been seeing how we can provide support to our staff, because you'll understand that the staff in that region have been significantly impacted, so much so that the work that I'm telling you about, we're talking about staff members coming from other parts of the island to go to the regions to do the relief work that's necessary. Partnering with the staff in the region who are affected, we have been doing the assessment, particularly of the children in what we call our life programs. So we have been trying to, establish contact with the children in foster care, the children who are in their families, whether in family reintegration or on supervision orders. So we've been doing that work. So we're talking about thousands of children, Winsome, because we have approximately 4,500 children in care, just over 1,000, maybe about 1,500 or thereabout that are in institutions. All the others are in family-based placements. So we have been doing the work to establish the contact with those families, and do an assessment to ensure that they're all right. So that is ongoing. And we have been doing the work now with our facilities that have been impacted. Quite a number of institutions down that side. So I'm talking about our children's homes and places of safety have lost large portions of the roof. So we have been, of course, pursuing relocating children, pursuing options towards, rapidly repairing those roofs and so on. So that is pretty much the work that we have been doing since the hurricane. But we have other ideas and concepts that we have submitted proposals for and are waiting on the relevant approvals to do more, particularly for the families that are not our clients now, but the families that have been displaced.
I just love the forward thinking is not just about, because we're asking about the parents and the children they care, but it's so much deeper than that, because if your staff are not at the place where they're able to deliver the service, then
Yeah,
the system is going to crumble.
yeah.
So it's very important that you recognize and address that. All right, let's bring in Sir Clark into the conversation. National College for Educational Leadership. Sir Clark, let's hear from you now. Does NCEL currently incorporate child rights training into its leadership programs? If not, how can this be done?
Thank you so very much for that question. Before I respond directly to that question, I believe it's important for us to understand the context within which the National College for Educational Leadership was established. The context is that we, as a country, were promoting good classroom teachers to the post of leadership and principalship in our schools. And so there were some gaps, because we know that principalship is not just about teaching and learning. That is one component of principalship. So when we talk about school leadership, we're talking about an individual who is able to bridge the gap between community and school. We're talking about an individual who is au fait with financial management, an individual who is very effective at instructional leadership, and so many other elements to run a school effectively on a day-to-day basis under, of course, the guidance of a board. And so that context is important for why the National College was established. Now, at the National College for Educational Leadership, or NCEL, we have a number of training programs and courses or learning opportunities for our participants to pursue a leadership development that are specific to our context. Now, as it relates to the child and child rights, one of the courses that we offer in partnership with UNICEF is that of Child Friendly Schools Leadership course. And this course is built on 4 principles that are grounded in the CRC. Now, we talk about the first principle of child-centeredness, meaning the emphasis must be on the child in everything that we do, seeing their potential, ensuring that we cater to their respective needs, ensure that the space, teaching and learning is conducive to the child. The second is that of inclusiveness or inclusivity. And when we talk about inclusivity, we're looking at accepting children from every background, every space, or everything that they come with, their struggles, their traumas, the good values and attitudes. We want to ensure that they feel a part of the school. And the values and attitudes that are important for the community and for the society, then the school will incorporate those in the learning experiences. And so the leader is integral in ensuring that all of that is done. Now, the third pillar or the third principle of child-friendly schools is that of democratic participation, which is so critical. It means that our school leaders or principals must ensure that the students, the parents who are so critical to the process, the teachers or the staff in general, do have a voice or do have a say in what happens in the school. So democratic participation is important. So if our school leaders, for example, are going to build a playground, or they're going to change the menu in their schools for healthier meals, then we expect them to have those conversations with the students and the parents to know what is happening and to inform and to educate them on what is important and in the best interest of the child. And the last principle of the child-friendly schools course that we offer is that of safe, healthy, and protective environment. Now we know that our schools are safe havens for many of our children. And so we endeavor to ensure that our school leaders create safe havens, create safe spaces where our students can ventilate. If they're having issues, they can feel protected from issues that may be happening at home, from issues of trauma, or whatever issues they are in the communities or in the homes. The schools must be so equipped to deal with these things. But again, I revert to the idea of the purpose of the establishment of NCEL. A school leader, a principal must think about school leadership in a very holistic way, knowing that it has to encompass CFS principles, it has to encompass good governance, it has to encompass all that is in the best interest of the child, and not only in terms of cognitive development, but we're talking about social development, emotional development, and so on. There are two other learning products that we offer, which I believe are important to add to the conversation, which is the Effective Principals Training Program. Now, in that program, we offer a module called Boys Education. And in that module, we expose our principals to teaching and learning strategies, interventions that are specifically geared towards boys. Now, of course, in the international space, and when we talk about gender equity and so on as it relates to sustainable development, in many countries, the interventions surround females or girls and women, young women. But in our context, we must pay keen attention to what is happening to our boys, what's happening to our youth, and so our male youth. And so at the NCEL, we build that out for our principals to do interventions to get the boys involved, to get the parents involved as it relates to boys education. And the last course that we offer, or in a more explicit way at NCEL, is called Leadership for Safer Schools. And two of the modules in this course look at one, gender-based violence, and two, looking at ending violence in schools. Now, unfortunately, we have seen issues of bullying, we have seen issues or cases where children commit suicide or children end up in situations that they're not supposed to be in. And we want to ensure that our school leaders, that our school administrators are equipped to deal with these issues and to treat with them in effective and efficient ways. And one of the things that I am proud to say in this space is that at NCEL, we have been very deliberate about exposing our school leaders, those who are in service and pre-service school leaders, to CFS principles, to navigating the conventions on the rights of the child as it relates to how do you treat with a child, what are their rights, and so on. So all of those things are intentionally done. So every aspirant, every teacher who comes into NCEL doing the Aspiring Principals program must pursue the child-friendly leadership course. Every principal, we encourage them to take that course. And so over the years, we've trained hundreds of participants or school leaders in this respective course. And again, thanks to UNICEF for facilitating this endeavor. And one of the other things that we do in terms of promoting child-friendly spaces or our schools as child-friendly spaces is to have our CFS ambassadors, where based on the interventions that are done in the schools by the school leaders, we look at the interventions and we recognize their efforts in being extremely deliberate and intentional in terms of ensuring that those spaces are created where the parents have a voice, where the students have a voice, where the discussions are had about the rights of the child, about the interests of the child, and about how the school facilitates holistic development of the individual who will, of course, become a part of society.
Very impressive. I'm over here thinking, listen to transformational leadership. I just love it, right? I tell you, in all of these different areas, is there a specific section where our school leaders are trained to help educators teach children about the rights and responsibilities of their parents? Which of those heading would it fall under?
Sure. So that is more explicit in the Child Friendly Schools Leadership course or CFS course, where we expose them to the principles, the four guiding principles, and having exposed them to those guiding principles, we then ask them to do interventions in their schools, which is how we select the ambassadors across the 7 administrative regions of the ministry, right? And so let us say, having offered a training in Q1, the principals will now do interventions in their schools, and from those interventions, looking at again the 4 principles: the child-centeredness, the inclusiveness, the democratic participation, which again requires of engagement with the parents, with the teachers or the staff, and with the children, and then ensuring that they have a protective, safe, and healthy environment. So we do encourage our parents to have those conversations in terms of what is needed in the space. Why are we taking certain actions? What is your contribution to the decisions that will be made? Because ultimately, the school is there and the school is designed for the well-being of the child. And so those conversations must be had.
Fantastic. And for your wrap-up question for this segment, what support is NCEL offering school leaders in the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa?
This is it's a tough one to respond to in the moment, and I'm saying that because today we had 2 sessions with our colleagues who are principals in training, aspirants and sitting principals, and we listened to them and what they're going through. What we have done at the National College is to design our recovery framework, which has 3 pillars. The first is that of knowledge mobilization and empowerment and capacity building. So what we're doing again is to partner with UNICEF to offer learning opportunities as it relates to crisis management, as it relates to education in emergencies. And we're cognizant of the fact that even our school leaders who are in communities, who are in spaces that have been severely impacted by the hurricane, they do not have electricity, they do not have internet connection at the moment. And so we're looking at resources that do not require internet connectivity, that do not require electricity for them to build the capacity. So that is the first pillar. So we're offering, again, learning opportunities for them to be so empowered to navigate their respective context. Secondly, we're looking at relief and recovery efforts. And under this pillar, we look at our staff at the National College for Educational Leadership who have been so generous in their giving back to society. And so what we have been doing as staff is to look at our own resources to see what we can contribute to a school that is in need. And importantly to that, our participants who are engaged in training with us, they've offered to contribute to that effort, because some of them, they're not affiliated with a major organization. And so they want to give, they want to contribute. And so we're being the central hub pretty much to facilitate collection and distribution of those resources to our schools and students who are in need, as well as staff. Under that pillar as well, the National College is undertaking cleanup and rebuilding efforts. So thus far, we have been to 2 schools, one in Region 5, which is Pondside Primary School, and one in Region 4, which is Green Pond High School. And Friday again, we'll be out in the field. What we have been seeing in our schools is somewhat total devastation. When we went to one of the schools last week, there was absolutely no roof. Everything was soaked. The principal's office, the library, the classrooms, all resources were wet. No roof at all. And so we went in, we went with the principal, some of the teaching staff, some of the ANSEL staff, and of course, some of the parents were there to support the cleanup effort. And what we're able to do is to put some of the books to dry. We were able to recover some of the materials, and we were able to add, through the donation of a generous individual, cover the principal's office with a tarpaulin. And before we left that day, the rains came. Some of the things got wet again. And the only place that had a temporary roof was the principal's office. And that is where individuals were able to seek shelter from the rains. And so when we talk about the impact on our schools and ensuring that the learning space is there, ensuring that our principals are supported, ensuring that our colleagues in education are supported, it means that we can go in and to provide cleaning up services. We can give up our time, we can give up our expertise. So we're doing that in very deliberate ways. So we're looking at our principals and the schools that have been severely impacted, and we're providing support. And another way in which we're providing support under the second pillar is that of our own expertise. A number of my colleagues at NCL, they're teacher trained, and so they do come with their expertise in different disciplines. And so what we're going to be doing in short order, because we know that the principals are humans, the teachers are humans, they have been impacted as well. We want to give them a day off. And giving them a day off meaning that we're going to go to the schools and we're going to take their classes for that respective day based on our areas of expertise and strength. So for example, my initial training is in Spanish and French. And so for a school that has been severely impacted, where I can relieve a teacher or relieve the principal of his or her duties for that day, I will take the lessons and I will deliver. My other colleagues in business education, in math, in ICT, in geography, and so on will be doing the same thing. And that is our way of giving back. We're not intending to compete with major organizations that have perhaps millions and can easily resource relief items. We're looking at what we have that can help in the recovery effort so that our children can once again be in that safe space and that safe haven for their own development. The last pillar is that of program support completion. So what we have done at NCL is to postpone our standard training schedule to focus heavily on the participants or the principals and aspirant principals who will be doing interventions in their schools. Earlier today, I saw a report where one school, the estimated cost for recovery is almost $300 million. We know it will require a lot of resources, time, money, all of those things. And so what we will be doing is that we'll be going into the schools and we will be working with our principals in deliberate ways to support them to build back the school and to build back stronger. In the Aspiring Principals program, which is the only paid program at the National College. Everything else that we do at NCL is free of cost to the system. And I think people don't understand that every program is free of cost. Every course is free of cost. If you want us to come in and design an intervention or workshop free of cost, there's only one program that has a cost. And in this effort, we have waived all delinquency fees for our participants. We have offered a 10% waiver on all outstanding balances, and we have extended the payment deadline for all participants. And that is just perhaps our minute way of helping the system to recover from Hurricane Melissa and our way of making Jamaica that place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business as it relates to Vision 2030 and beyond.
Wow, those are some very practical ways to provide support. And other organizations can take some hints from what you just shared. What's that you have in your hand? You don't have some resources, but we all have at least one thing or skill set that we can utilize to make a difference. All right, let me pause before we go into the final segment to acknowledge Janet Reed Campbell from Rehoboth Basic School. Thank you so much for joining us. The recording will remain on YouTube, so you can feel free to share the link for those who are not able to join us live, so they can get access to this, reservoir of information that was shared here. And for our final segment, which is our roundtable, one question to all our panelists. What programs or practices in Jamaica best support positive parenting, and what additional initiatives would you recommend? Starting with Karine again, then Sergeant Williams, Sir Clark, and then Dr. Thompson will round out.
Okay. So programs that support positive parenting, I have to highlight the National Parent Support Commission. It is Parent Month, and usually our activities would be varied for Parent Month. And I know that the NPSC had plans in terms of doing a mass certification and graduation for our parents who would have been engaged in the parent places. So shout out to NPSC. We also would look at the PATH program under the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. They're doing excellent in terms of providing support to our parents. Going under the ministry, we're looking at the special education unit. Parents are able to apply to be shadows for their children and for those who can also support another child. So this is really dear to us, especially with our ECD assessment department, and also kudos to the early stimulation program. Now, there are several different programs, the SOS Children's Village, we have our faith-based organizations, and also our NGOs, because when we look at positive parenting and then the applications and the implications to the parent-child relationship, realize that a lot is being done by these organizations. And suggestion is that we need to strengthen more in terms of corporate Jamaica, private entities just coming on board and put in place those trainings, parents within the communities, within the space, specific reference being made to the parenting on the corner that JCF is currently doing. It's more collaboration and partnership in these spaces, bringing the different entities together through our community-based activities and ensuring that parents have the awareness, the knowledge, and the skill set to continue to be the best version of themselves for their children.
Great. Right, Sergeant Williams.
Thank you very much. No, she listed all the answers I was going to give. But I must commend her, though she named several institutions that are key as it relates to partnership. And she mentioned the parenting on the corner, and I'll speak to the JCF aspect of it, that we do have that program. And we know we said parenting, but I wanted to make mention of the youth empowerment programs that we normally have and how we incorporate the parents in it. Now, every program that we have, as I mentioned, we involve parents, but the youth empowerment aspect of it, we ensure that there's a particular day that the parents come in and they came in on a day with their child, but in the middle of all of these programs, we have the parent come in to say, remember when you brought your child on this day? This is where your child is now. And I think this is a practice that needs to be replicated in everything that we're doing that involves children. Again, the parents must be on board. When there's a situation too that the child brings something to light as it relates to what is happening at the home, I think involving the parent also makes such a huge difference because the truth is that sometimes the parents are not the persons that the children talk to. And Dr. Thompson mentioned in raising the children previously some of the practices that we have used, but in this particular
we lost Sarge. All right. Until he gets back, Sir Clark, go ahead and share your response.
Sure, thank you. So again, I am like Karine. I really would like to use the opportunity to highlight, for example, a sister agency, the National Parenting Support Commission, which was established to lead in this regard in terms of what's happening nationally and the efforts that can be better coordinated. So that is a good thing coming out of the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information that I hope to see continue in its endeavors to reach our parents and so on. At the National College, one of the other things we have done is to again look at our landscape. We have embedded the Sustainable Development Goals and the national goals in our operations. And so we're deliberate about exposing our school leaders, exposing our system leaders to the whole matter of sustainable development. And one of the things that we have done is to launch earlier this year what we called leadership empowerment. And the emphasis is on men in MENT, which means that we're focusing deliberately on males. Our males who are leaders, our males who are parents, our males who are educators who have to treat with some of these situations, ensuring that they're mentored, ensuring that they're empowered, and ensuring that there is a space for them to network. When you listen to a principal or an individual who vents because he or she has to deal with a lot as it relates to the challenges that exist in our schools, and how they have to be creative in navigating those issues, how they have to be creative in even this time when the students don't have homes or roofs over their heads, and the parent, the principals, the school leaders have to be there for their children. What we're endeavoring at ENSEL is to create the space for conversations, but what we have moved away from significantly is just the conversations. So almost everything that we do must have a call to action. So we talk a lot sometimes, but the action is important. So every idea that is important, that is contextually relevant in a space is important. We do encourage all the collaborative efforts. We do encourage all individuals, all key stakeholders to be a part of the conversation about parenting, proper parenting, the rights of the child, ensuring that there's holistic development. But I challenge all of us to have that call to action where we're not just talking, but we're implementing, we're doing things to ensure that the lives of others are better. And that is a major difference between what ENSEL offers in its training versus perhaps a theoretical degree. We're not about the theory so much, we're about the practice. We're about improving lives through effective leadership.
Thank you so much. Dr. Thompson.
All right. Yes. So I want to start by saying, the National Plan of Action for an Integrated Response to Children and Violence has, and one of the indicators is for, ordinary Jamaicans, including parents, to be able to name some rights of children. So all of us as public, entities ought to be involved in sensitizing parents to the rights of children. So that's one thing that definitely contributes to positive parenting. Now, of course, I said earlier that at the CPFSA, we engage in different types of parenting training, parenting workshops, and so on to get parents to engage in positive parenting. But I'm aware that there have been other programs, of some of them donor funded, that have been focused on building parenting capacity in Jamaica. So there was the Positive Pathways to Parenting, I believe, USAID funded program that was being implemented by quite a number of non-governmental organizations. Of course, that no longer exists because USAID does not exist anymore. In addition to that, I know UNICEF has the parent text using their U-Report platform, where using WhatsApp, parents are able to get parenting information on a number of topics, relationship building and so on. And of course, it was said before, the National Parenting Support Commission, quite a number of groups I know, including denominations that have like family life commissions, would have done parenting training. There was a time when Parenting Partners of the Caribbean was very, very active implementing training across the island for parents. But groups like those that are dedicated to parenting, outside of the National Parent Teachers Association, they're not engaged in that kind of activity anymore. But I'm hoping that, as I saw it in the manifesto of the party currently in government, that there would be an increasing support to the National Parenting Support Commission to promote, and I'm putting it this way, positive parenting across the island. So those are some of the things that are happening where parenting is concerned, some of these services that exist to promote positive parenting in Jamaica.
Fantastic. So what I'm hearing is that we already have these programs in place. All we need is additional resources to make them more effective or to reach more of our parents.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, so I must acknowledge Epsom Basic. Thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Rose. It's great to have you. And remember, you can share the link so your other colleagues can benefit from what I believe was a wealth of information that was shared here. And for the leaders who need to get some training, Encel is looking out for you. And remember, it's free. All it requires is for you to commit to the program, right? And take action.
Definitely.
Getting it done and implementing what it is that you learn. Oh, so sorry that Sergeant Williams wasn't able to reconnect with us. So we heard from the Early Childhood Commission, JCF, Community Safety and Security Branch Headquarters, as well as CPFSA and NCEL. It's great to have you in this space, NCEL.
It's good to be here. It was a good conversation.
Awesome. So, as always, it has been my pleasure moderating the segment and just facilitating this flow of conversation so that you can learn more about what positive parenting really looks like and some of the practical things that you can do. And we also heard about some practical things that these organizations are doing to support their team members and those people they serve as we rebuild stronger together after what's such a pretty name, Melissa, but the effect was not pretty at all. But together we rise. Thank you so much for tuning in. We usually have a forum on Thursdays, but we are still on a break. Just took some time out to facilitate this work, and I'm so glad we did this so that we can have this information there for others to actually get access to, and even some of the initiatives that are ongoing now in terms of the recovery relief exercise. I'm hearing some things that we can continue beyond the relief because the needs will always be there so that we can, as we move forward. Thank you so much again. For those who were able to join us live, it was such an awesome pleasure having you. And for those of you who are going to be watching the replay, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we ask you to share the information so others can get access to it. All right. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the night.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Winsome.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.